Hello everybody, welcome to another TIETS Informational. Today we're going to be talking about VYE, which is the card game of capture and control, which is basically an area control card game for 2 to 5 players. It's unique because it has variable times you can play based on what cards you put in. It starts at about 20 minutes and can go anywhere up to 60 minutes. Also, the game's going to be a little bit longer depending on how many players you have and so forth and so on. The card game is unique in a way where you're basically going to start with 5 cards in the middle. There's a basic setup and then there's some variable setups. And what you're going to be doing is playing cards, and you're going to be taking tokens, your family tokens. You're going to represent a family, a royal family. And you're basically going to be placing your tokens and trying to match them up next to other cards and capture cards north, south, east, west that are adjacent to the other cards. And you're just going to keep doing that until the game ends, when the inevitable Empress, who's at the end of the game, pops up. Game ends immediately. Whoever has the largest controlled area, so that means connected area. So you could have, it's not how many total family tokens you have on the board, it's whatever your largest area is. And there's some other cards that can affect that. I think the Ancient Passage is one of them. You also have a little bit of a twist where you have your 4 kind of, you have a sidebar where you have your 4 cards, and there's a couple special cards that can add to that, like the Fortress. But you're going to have your advisor, you're going to have your king, you're going to have your queen, and you're going to have your heir. Now these cards are cards you can play from your sideboard instead of out of your hand. And what happens is, like with the advisor, you can put your tokens all around, completely around him. With the king, it's going to be horizontal and vertical, north, south, east, west. The queen, this is how you're going to get diagonal, be able to take over cards. And then you have your heir, which is going to allow you to take 1 card in any direction. So you're basically kind of vying, you're trying to capture cards, you're taking other people's tokens and knocking them off the board, which is going to be a large space. You're going to need a large space for this game. So that's basically the gameplay. It's kind of easy to learn, easy to play, and you just kind of go, and then it gets more and more strategic based on what extra cards you put in. So there are these special cards that have special abilities, and then you have legendary cards, which there's usually one of that create different things, like whether it's an earthquake or the Ancient Passage that I mentioned before, Sanctuary, a Waystone, which allows you to have more cards in your hand. So they did spend time trying to figure out, okay, how can we add and make twists and different combinations to the game, which makes it rather interesting. Okay, with all that said, let's talk about what I think of the game and what I've experienced in our gameplay. First of all, the artwork is tremendous. It's very, very cool. You know, you can look at, there's pictures of these on Board Game Geek and on their website. But you can really look at the cards. I laid some out here, but they're really, really nice cards. The quality is great. The gloss is great. They shuffle easy. So that's pretty great. I do think the game plays best with 3 or 4. I think 5 gets a little out of control. 2, it's basically kind of whoever gets the last turn, really. Which is another thing that makes the game not so great, is the inevitable Empress. I mean, there's got to be a way to end the game, but there isn't an equal amount of turns. So when this card comes up, the game's over. So you got to kind of, I mean, maybe sort of like a Lost Cities, you got to kind of prepare. You go, okay, we're getting close to the end. I better make sure that I play these cards. But it does add a little bit of a luck factor to the game. But with that said, there are definitely some other cards in here, the Fortress card, that can add some more strategy to it. But I just think I've found that no matter how strategic you are, when that card comes up, it gets you if you're waiting for your next turn or whatever. And so that's really why I think it's better with more players than just 2, because it eliminates some of that overall luck, because you have to kind of strategically think. You know, you're holding cards. Okay, they might have, this raccoon card, or they might have the whale card, which are, they're just pictures, they're groupings. There's 4 of each one. So there's 2 on the board, and you have one. One of the opponents might be holding one, waiting for you to play it so they can capture all those cards. So there is a fun element to it. I do think that it's good to teach area control. I think it's more for players that are just kind of getting into more advanced gaming and stuff. I don't think, I think some people who have played a lot of heavy Euros or heavy area control games might not be a huge fan of this. It is more of a filler game, so you can throw it in there and play. And again, I do think it is interesting with 3 or 4 players. The last thing I will say about this game I want to talk about is the rulebook. The rulebook is, I mean, it's colorful. It's a lot of pages. I know I've put some updated rule books online and stuff, but the one that comes with the game, it's not, I don't think it's very well written. I think that it's confusing. You'll be reading it, and then there's examples way farther down the line. You'll be reading and go, hey, what about that? And then, you got to look up 3 more pages to find it. It also, in this rule book, and it does say on their website, but it doesn't even tell you, what's legal as far as card placement and what's not at the beginning. I mean, it's self-explanatory, but that was one thing that I was frustrated about, was the rule book. But it does take the time to go over each individual card, what they do, their special abilities. So it has kind of like a description here, and then it goes into more detail on them. Maybe the game could have benefited from a little, a reference card or something like that. But rulebook aside, I do think this game's worth having in your collection just for the artwork alone, and it is a little bit of a different twist. One other thing I wanted to mention, I think that they should have done, and maybe they've done this online, I don't know, but what they should have done is given you some, some setup stuff. They have kind of like, kind of for your first game, suggested special and legendary cards, but I think it would have been really cool if they had, they went a little more advanced on that. Sort of like if you're familiar with Dominion, kind of how they had like 6 or 7 different scenarios. It would have been really, I think, a lot better if they had that in there. But anyway, if you like area control games, you're looking for a quick filler, if you want something that has really cool artwork, then you might want to check out VYE. Take it easy. See you next time.